let's talk about The Little Prince. Welcome back, Mere Mortalites, to another edition of the Mere Mortals book reviews. You have one here, and today I will be reviewing Le Petit Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupery. Man, I'm going to butcher some French. This is The Little Prince, and it is, in fact, a full book, completely in French. If you're looking at the video, all good videos out there, all good apps, you'll be seeing that there's a lot of French throughout this. Now, this particular book is around 85 pages in length, and you would think, being a pretty thin book, it's one of those quick books to get through. Now, I personally read this in French, so guess what? It took me a hell of a long time to get through this particular book. It was one of my annual goals around reading a book in French, completely in French. I'll talk about separately how I went about doing that in the learnings episode as well around this book, but I want to just talk about what Le Petit Prince was, and I'm going to be talking about it in English, obviously. Now, caveat here, reading it fully in French with some English translations to kind of understand what was going on. I might have missed some things here and there, so we'll go from there. Now, Le Petit Prince, what it is a kid's book. It is a kid's book, but it is one of those kids' books and stories, I guess, in the fiction aspect that can also be picked up by anybody, and a lot of learnings can be extracted from it. In this particular book as well, the learnings that come about from it are obvious. They're really very, very upfront. The story itself is all about, so the actual narrator of the book, although it bounces between the Little Prince, but the main narrator, he was an airplane pilot, crashes in the Sahara Desert, badly damaged, doesn't have any little food or water, and then the Little Prince sort of comes up to him. And the beginning of it is all around drawings and drawing a baobab or a serpent and a sheep as well. It sort of progresses on, and you get to sort of understand how the prince is interacting and talking to the airplane pilot who's crashed. Then you kind of, as you go through the book, get to see where the little prince has come from in this little planet with 3 volcanoes and a little road, and the way that he interacts, jumps between different planets trying to see and interact with other people. It is through, I guess, those particular experiences that he finds individuals who are very greedy or very focused on work and all about the calculations and the numbers. And it's kind of a comparison, really, as you go throughout the book, between the mind of a child and the mind of childhood before it is consumed or taken over by the adult mind, the I must work, I must this, I must X because I'm told what to do. And there's a lot of references throughout the book around the adults don't understand, the adults don't see this, they don't go down this path, etc. So that's really the main point of the actual book. Is it a book that's necessarily extremely deep? No, philosophically it presents things like the ego or greed, danger, the, I guess, concepts that we see, and I'm looking at it from an adult perspective, concepts that we see and maybe take for granted that maybe don't have to be that way or can be considered in different ways. Another aspect through the book is the prince talks to quite a few animals, and in those conversations they discuss things which are, once again, not your typical thought patterns of, hey, this particular fox, maybe I should actually go down the path of taming you, and the problems or the benefits around taming. So, something that we wouldn't individually be thinking about really when one, we're not talking to foxes, 2, probably not a thought that's come up in our mind, but it is just this, I guess it is fantasy, but it's sort of surreal story that brings about quite a lot of interesting philosophical learnings, but they're very simple, they're very surface. I could imagine, now my daughter does not read or understand French, but I might get her the English copy of this particular book, and I could see her as a 4-year-old, 5-year-old being able to pick up quite a lot of details, a lot of information, a lot of the common call-outs of, oh yeah, hey, you don't want it to be a problem that you're always focused on numbers and making money or counting or turning on the switches on and off when a certain thing happens, having your own self-reason rather than just following what has been told to you. Lots of little learnings like that in this particular book. It is a short, sharp book, well written. I wouldn't say it's beyond that something ridiculous, but it is succinct. It is powerfully written in a short way to deliver the story. It was fun, so even if I was reading it in French, I did find a real enjoyment out of going through this particular book. And the illustrations actually in this book, now I don't know if it's always the case for this particular book for Le Petit Prince, but at least for the copy that I've got, there was quite a lot of drawings throughout it as well. Some that would take up the entire page, some that would just be a little bit smaller, and it would again reference a little bit of a quote in French of the pullout of what was being talked about. It did give you some idea of what things looked and may appear, but in just enough detail, I guess, that it would leave you with a lot of exploration in your own mind of what did these planets actually look like? What did the volcano that was extinct actually appear? So again, there's images, but you really have to extract it out of your own mind. And I found that fun. Even if it was in French, it came across really, really interesting, succinct, and the like. In summary, honestly, I'd recommend this book. It's a really short read. If you've got an hour or two and you want to read it in your own language, awesome. If you want to go and read it in obviously the original language or in some other language, okay, good luck. This was definitely a hard read, at least for myself. It's the first French book that I've ever read, and it was a bit of a slog, even if it was simple concepts throughout. There was just words that I just never picked up on illustrations. Look, I'd recommend it for kids, for adults reading it to kids. It was a good book. I'm going to leave it at that. Would I pick it up again and reread it? Certainly not. Certainly not the French copy. Would I reread the English one? Perhaps to get maybe some more thorough coverage of maybe what I missed when I was reading this particular book. But beyond that, it's one of those that maybe just sits on the bookshelf or it gets passed around as well for someone else to read. That's really it. Me Immortalized for Le Petit Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupery. If you have read this book before, whether in French or just in an English version, did you enjoy it? Was there any learning that you took out that I'm not really talking about? Anything else from the story that you found was interesting that perhaps I didn't call out? Again, comments, messages, boostergrams. You can send through some Satoshis with a message attached. Send it through. I'll read it out. We do this on a week-by-week basis, myself and Karen, the other co-host of the book reviews and the Mere Mortals podcast. So feel free to do that. It's how you help us continue along as well. But for now, Mere Mortalites, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much wherever you are in the world. One out.